to contain my excitement for the release of Resident Evil Village, I decided to beat Resident Evil 7 without ever walking forward. The rules of the challenge are quite simple. If I ever want to move, I have to press the S key on my keyboard. No walking forward with W, and no strafing with A or D. Let's get started. The game opens up with Ethan, making his way to the house through the forest, and it turns out Ethan walks backwards really slowly. So it took a while to get there, but I eventually made it inside. It didn't take long for me to encounter my biggest enemy for this run, ladders. Indeed, it is impossible to go up and down most ladders without pressing W. So challenge failed, I guess. No, I knew going into this it would be impossible to completely remove my W key from my keyboard, since some actions like going up ladders and ledges or sliding inside a wall would require me to press forward. But I kept on trying not to press this disgusting key as much as I could. I did die once to the Mia fight, but retrying and being a little more careful with my movement and aim granted me a quick victory and an invite to the main house. Oh.
Welcome to the family, son.
This is when I hit what I thought could be the end of the run. The first Jack encounter. After you wake up around the dinner table, your goal, as Ethan, is to get the key to the hatch and escape through there without Jack spotting you. Unfortunately, with my current movement options, Jack was always able to catch up with me, and he started swinging at me. This is when I realized that as long as I blocked his attacks, Jack couldn't kill me. I played on normal difficulty and not easy, so I definitely did not expect that, but it helped me reach the hatch. Or so I thought. Jack suddenly grabbed me and sliced my foot right off with his shovel. He then went to the other side of the room, offering me a healing item for me not to bleed out. I crawled backwards to it, picking up my foot on the way there. The magic water helped me glue it back on. Let's see how that goes. And I was able to go through the hatch while Jack was throwing a tantrum. Oh!
You're gonna have to do better than that, boy.
We made it out! Somehow, the police officer coming to the house still thought it was a good idea to give me his knife even though I walked backwards to his window. With it in hand though, I could make my way into the garage. In there, my newfound friend met a terrible fate, but honestly it's on him. If he was walking backwards, he would have seen Jack coming. This Jack encounter actually went pretty smoothly. I slowly went to the keys and got in the car before he could reach me. And then I realized that you don't have to press W to accelerate in the car. Now, I couldn't turn by pressing A and D, but Jack was nice enough to walk directly in front of the car. 3 times in a row. Oh, thank you.
All right, bring it on.
Well then. With the emblem now in hand, I was able to access the rest of the house. I explored as much as I could before Jack decided it was time for him to show up again. To escape him here, I dropped downstairs and entered the safe room. Whew. Hello? However, upon exiting, something very interesting happened. Well then, I think he's here. I'm not sure. What's going on? I'm a bit confused, but I think me moving backwards into him might have glitched the AI. So Jack and I shared a moment there for a minute or so, before he decided to slap me in the back as soon as I tried to move again. I still managed to make my way to the painting, occasionally shooting him in the head just to remind him who the boss is. I was wondering how I would be able to solve the puzzle with Jack chasing me, but it seems the game knows some players might struggle with this, so when I reached the puzzle area, Jack punched me and just bailed me.
It's over, boy.
Okay. Huh? This playthrough really makes me wonder if he's actually trying to kill me or if he just wants me to keep on suffering. But I really can't complain, since I didn't even think I would make it this far in the first place. Handling the molded wasn't easy, since I couldn't ever run away, and I had to kill most of them. but I finally made it to the morgue. Now it is interesting to note that I did not pick up the shotgun before this encounter. My reasoning was that if I were to go upstairs, Jack would just spot me and kill me, so I decided to try with that. Was it a good idea? Probably not. Did it work out? Yeah, eventually. The main difficulty with this fight when only walking backwards is that Jack moves away from the player when staggering. So I had to turn around, move backwards and turn around again to be able to damage him further. After a few attempts, I discovered that he doesn't do that if he has his back to the wall, so I tried to get him in such a position whenever I could. I kept dying and dying until this happened. I'm dead. Oh, am I? I'm not dead? Wait, what? Yep, it did happen again. For the second time in this playthrough, Ethan lost his foot and glued it back on with magic water. A few seconds after I got up, I managed to get the final blow on Jack, and we were finally out of this madhouse. We're out! Yay! It was now Margaret's turn to feel the full extent of my back muscles. I entered the house, shotgunned her insect hives, crafted a flamethrower, got the crow key, and fell down a hole. Thank God, this fight doesn't require you to move in the first place, so just shooting her 4 times with the shotgun granted me a quick kill, and I had to press W to climb the ladder again. Goddamn ladders. Once back up, it seemed like I needed a lantern, so I went back to the hole, and Ethan started reacting to things that he couldn't even see. What a weird guy. But I made my way through the tunnel, climbed up the ladder again, and entered the greenhouse. Closed the door behind us, because we were very polite. Excuse me? This second Margaret fight was a bit awkward, since I don't really know the layout of the map, and I can't see where I'm going, so I decided to use the best technique I could come up with in the moment, which was not moving at all. And boy, let me tell you, it did not work. On the first try, that is. On the second try, I was in a different spot, and she kept coming at me, getting shot once or twice, and running away again. Eventually, she just fell. 5 hours into the run, and Lucas was the only one standing in the way of me getting Mia out of there. Not this Lucas, this one. Aside from a few spooks here and there, getting the 2 keycards was fairly eventless. Lucas had invited me to a party, but it seemed like I was the first one to get there. I was already aware of his tricks because I fell for them in my previous run. This time, I was being really cautious, and because of that, I took no damage. Anyways, Lucas got mad soon after, probably because he thought I was taunting him by only moving backwards. So he spawned a giant puking monster on my face. It wasn't easy to handle since I was very slow, but I defeated it. Lucas didn't take it very well, and he decided to trap me in a room with a deadly puzzle to solve.
Have a nice day.
You too? Thankfully, Ethan and his sixth sense knew all the codes to the locks for some reason. I did almost die because I stood on top of a bomb for a few seconds, but after realizing it, I blew up the wall and escaped, very slowly. It's at this point that I had a huge realization. I always know what's behind my back in this place. After that, I finally reached the room in which Lucas was keeping Mia and the girl who kept trying to call me during the entire game, and me not being able to respawn because I was walking too slow to pick up in time. This happy moment was rudely interrupted by Jack, who felt like he did not have enough screen time yet. I died a few times on this boss because it was hard for me to dodge most of his attacks. But by guarding his attacks and aiming at the eyes somewhat decently, I was able to get him to grab me, and that is when I shot my grenade launcher and my shotgun in his face to explode half of it. He didn't seem to have enough though, so we turned him into stone and left the scene of the crime. With only 1 serum left, it was time to make a choice, and I decided to turn my back on Mia. So Zoe died, and Mia inexplicably teleported to where Ethan was rendered unconscious by Evelyn, this little girl who infected everyone in the game. She dragged him in, and it was now my job, as Mia, to rescue him. I was a bit scared for this section of the game, because I was a bit less familiar with it, and I struggled during my last run since you have to start without weapons. Thankfully, walking backwards allowed me to take the time to think about how to sneak past the molded, and this drunk one missing most of his attacks meant the first segment went really well actually. I met up with Evelyn and she decided it was a good time for us to watch a movie together, so we did that. The movie was oddly relatable since it was a person moving backwards through a ship, something I was doing myself just a few seconds ago. The person in the movie didn't seem to have much trouble clearing the ship, since, unlike me, she had a weapon. Honestly, it was kind of a boring movie, probably some experimental indie film, so I decided to go to bed after it, and finish the run the next day. Also, my middle finger that I was using to press S was starting to hurt. I booted up the game again, loaded in, had to retry 2 seconds in because I pressed forward accidentally, and I was ready to go. Armed with only a knife, I sneaked my way to the locker keys and got myself a weapon just like the one in the movie. Now armed with a gun and some bombs, clearing the molded was a piece of cake. Another one of these big puking guys tried to give me a hug, but I defeated it using 3 bombs and several bullets. A few ladder-induced W presses later, I found Ethan. And as soon as I took control of him, I decided to kill Mia, so that I never have to play as her again with no weapons to defend myself. And also she cut my hand, so there's that. I slowly swam my way through the swamp and back to the house, only to realize that to get back in, going through the salt mines was apparently the only way to go. Now armed with my newly collected Magnum, for which I thought I had a lot more ammunition, but clearly I was wrong. I started exploring the mines. That's all I have. Only have 3. Now I must say I was very scared of this section, since usually you want to run up the spiral while quickly shooting everything in your way. However, running was not an option here, so I had to kill all the enemies. Fortunately, there were way less than I expected, and some of them didn't even have arms. Next step was fighting 2 puking monsters at the same time. Thankfully, with my perfect accuracy, I missed. And superior movement techniques, I have found myself stuck against the wall. But I still managed to deal with them. Victory was in sight. The only thing left to do was run up the house, have some vivid hallucination about my deceased wife, and deal with Evelyn once and for all. Or so I thought. I got up to the attic, saw her on the other side, and started making my way to her walking backwards. Oh, I tried several different ways, but it seems there is no way to reach her without running forwards. The wind is just too strong. I guess this is the end of the run. So what did I learn by doing this challenge? Well, playing Resident Evil 7 backwards isn't too bad. It is kinda slow to get anywhere, but it can be done. Except for ladders and the Evelyn fight. So I think we can safely say that Evelyn is basically a ladder. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see the next dumb challenge I come up with, which is probably going to be playing Resident Evil Village backwards, be sure to also check out my Twitch channel. Thanks again, have a nice day.